Hello. So if we look at our today's tasks, we can see that we need to unwrap the interior models like table vase, picture frame, and the walls and the ceiling. Now we did not plan this. When we were planning our project, we did not include unwrapping tasks. So that can happen. It's okay. We can just add the task in our flowchart. And if I open up the Max file, we can see that the modeling process has been done. If we go to the planning phase, unwrapping is not a very complicated job. A lot of people think that it's very time consuming, it's very hassle, and it's very problematic thing. Well, it's not. It's a very simple process. If you can understand the process, you can do it very easily. Like, first things, we have to plan the unwrapping. Usually the model seems fine. If I hover over to Max, you can see that this model is looking fine. Well, in reality it's not, because I have, when we model this, we were using some chamfer modifiers and doing cuts over here and there. If we did not plan the geometry correctly, it's not going to unwrap properly, or it's going to give us some errors when we do unwrap. So the next thing would be to fixing the first thing would be to fixing the edge flow, and the next thing would be to fixing the modeling problem, understanding texel density, and then comes the unwrapping, which I prefer to use RizomUV. That's a great tool, great software, and it's very easy to use, and it's very, very fast. It has symmetry as well. Like, yeah, symmetry. That's a quite a feature when doing unwrap. Now, the first thing would be to inspect our scene. These walls, they came up from Revit, and I know the geometry that came from Revit, it's not good because it does not have the proper topology. By topology, I mean, if I isolate this picture window frame, you can see that there is no cut over here. While this is not a problem in Max, it's a problem in, if we plan to export this object to maybe Unity, maybe Unreal Engine, or maybe to like Lumion, it's going to be a problem because this object will not have proper UVs, and either we have to remodel it or fix some edge flows so that it can be properly unwrapped and uh, exported to other engines. While in V-Ray, if we are using V-Ray, it does not matter so much, but I like to work the proper way because in the end, I, maybe the client wants this output in real time. So I like to be prepared, and unwrapping is not such a big time consuming job. It's a fairly simple process once you can understand it. So let me just quickly send some assets to Rhizome UV, then I will explain to you why I am, you know, doing this process and explaining to you this process. I'm just going to click on this bridge, and this has to be edit poly object. So I did save as the file, before unwrapping the model, and I'm going to convert this to editable poly and send it to Rhizome UV. This script is a simple script. It just exports and then imports the geometry into Rhizome UV and opens it up. Now that this hasn't been opened up, I can just press F to focus or frame to the object. We can try the auto seam or auto UV function in the Rhizome UV. I'm going to choose this hard surface model, and click on this to select some, possibly some edges, and possibly algorithm option, turn this on down, click some edges, and I am going to cut this and unwrap this and possibly pack this and then optimize. Now you can see that Rhizom UV did some automatic cutting, and it is not the best cut, but what I want to be showing you the point. Now you can see that if I'm in edge mode, if I click on this edge and this edge and this edge, and what I want is this edge, this part, to be one piece, so that I can select this edge. If this flow is not going this way, I have to reroute some of these edges, maybe cut this over here, or to if I deselect these edges, click this and then click on this. By the way, you can see my shortcut keys are appearing over here, and then press C or use this tool to cut and unwrap once again and pack up once again. Now you can see that it did something, but cut again. Let me just cut again and zoom out, and possibly something did happen, but the geometry flow is not correct. That's why Rhizom UV automatic seam function is probably not working at its best. Optimize. I'm just going to press O, hold on O, to optimize, and it is doing its job, trying to do its best, but it can't. So we can go to this island mode, and it is saying that it is still connected. Let me just manually click this face and cut it by pressing the C key, and then if I just move it out here and press O to optimize. This is the optimize function, by the way. Now you can see that this has been optimized and separated from the other pieces. But the thing is that if the flow was correct, like this edge should cut from here, and same as if I point out this way, you know going into edge mode, you can see that these edges, they are not continuing over to here, so neither are these. We can do this by simply clicking here, and then if I go to select and then expand my selection once, and maybe expand my selection again, and we can press the cut tool and then press F to focus and move it to this side. Now you can see that I have some faces cut, and what I want to be doing, cutting these up as well, because I want the UV to be nice and clean and straight. So that's why I want my edge flow to be straight and clear. If I go to my edge selection tool and then try to uh, try to double click on this, you can see that this is going haywire, and this is the problem, or probably this is the problem. If let me just go back into Max, I'm not going to save this, and go into Max, and probably by clicking undo a few times, now you can see that I have the chamfer modifier. I'm going to turn this off. Now you can see that if I don't do anything, just turn off the chamfer modifier, and now the edge flow is clean. Let me just demonstrate to you by sending this to the convert to editable poly and just press F to focus on this object. And possibly now I am going to use the auto cut function, auto seam function, and try to maybe cut it and press the unwrap and maybe pack. Now you can see that this is a much better unwrap. Now we did not get all of the edges. We can, in this case I just want to select all of the edges and press the cut, and not this one, this one, unwrap, optimize and pack. Possibly do the optimize later. Now this unwrap in my opinion is a lot cleaner and a lot nicer than what we had. Let me just inspect this face by clicking on this, and this is probably this. We can possibly move it to this location where all of the others are have been placed. Now this is what I meant by fixing the geometrical edge flow. And the next thing would be modeling problem. Now this in my case, in my opinion, is a lot better unwrap, because if I turn on the the texture display, you can see that we have some nice even chords. So I'm going to click on save so that Prism UV closes and import back the geometry. And if I go to material override with UV texture, you can see that now this has been properly unwrapped. Now the thing is that it wasn't so hard, because when we do it like this way, plan ahead, plan what's wrong with our objects, how we model them, and how we can approach the modeling. It's not very hard job to do. The next thing would be to fix the modeling problem. And why I click on this task, because I know that if I turn off the override, this geometry, these walls geometry, it came from Revit, and I know Revit is not a great uh, tool for like exporting game models, because its algorithm it's different. It's a procedural modeling tool. So let me just send this to the RizomUV, and we have to convert this to editable poly, of course. And you can see some things have happened as well. If I click on the RizomUV bridge and press F and I navigate, first thing you've been noticing that now this shape was open. If I switch to Max, this is open, and in Rhizome UV this is closed, and we have some weird polygon shapes overlapping. The thing is that Max can understand the models imported, but other softwares cannot. So we have to clean this model, we have to clean the topology. And what's wrong with this model is that it's not modeled in Max, so that's why it's giving these kind of problems. And I'm not going to save this. And the problems are because from experience I know that if I do undo, and I could possibly convert this to a double poly and select all of these faces and hide selection. Now you can see that we have some overlapping polygons. Aha. So that was the problem, what was causing the error. If I delete these, now you can see that we have an open edge, open face. If I unhide all, and possibly hide this geometry and move to this side. Now you can see that this is now behaving like we are expecting. Now this problem is all over this wall geometry. In fact, it's all over the model that I have imported from Revit. Now, how did I identify this problem? If I go to Cyanide Tools and click on this Scribe or Sculpt, and just for this demonstration sake, if I click on this display duplicated vertices, you can see that it is pointing some sort of helper objects to the locations. So these are the locations which have duplicated vertices or the duplicated faces. So that is how I was able to identify the problems. By the way, Cyanide softwares, they have some great tools, and one of them is you can, if you go to Sculpt and possibly try to rebuild this mesh, and I did tried it, but it's not working for me right now. I do not know what is the problem, but I will do quick R&D on this, and if something came up, I will update or possibly put a link in the video description as well. So for now, I am just going to do this manually by hand by going to click all of these and clicking on hide selection and moving to this wall and deleting these duplicated faces, and then click on this hide selection and then removing these duplicated faces or these duplicated geometrical faces which came from Revit, and now they have been deleted, and unhide all. And I think these selection brackets are very annoying. I'm going to turn these off, and now I am going to vertex mode, and I'm going to turn on the statistics and total plus selection and show in view, and I'm going to click on all vertices. You can see that there are 87, and I will vent them. And now you can see before there was 87 and after there are 32. Now I think that this model has been cleaned. We can send it to RizomUV again, and it is still showing up some errors, and we have to, I think, possibly forgot to fix this piece. Let me just quickly get back and inspect this as well. Okay, I got the problem. The problem is that this this hole, it's not connecting to anywhere. Like this vertex point is floating in the air. While this is fine for Max, it's not fine if I export this to Unreal or some other gaming engine, or maybe to Maya or something. Maya could probably understand it, but not the gaming engine. I'm going to click on this Paint Connect tool and just click from here to here. I should hold Control, possibly. Yes, now it's working. Press the Control key and click on here to here, here to here, while holding down the the control key, I can, or you can use the traditional cut tool as well. Now let me just send this geometry back to RizomUV and press F to focus. Now you can see, aha, voila, it worked because the edge loops or the geometry problems have been fixed. Unwrapping this is fairly simple and easy process in Horizon UV. I might try to this by clicking on this arrow, not this one, the hard edges, and just default algorithms. Click on this and click on cut and unwrap and possibly pack. Now you can see that the auto scenes function, it worked and it did a really nice job. Now there are some things that I like to do, like by hand, like clean up this geometry. First of all, I do not like this square shape. It will not be a good unwrap if I try to pack my geometry like this way. If I select these edges and cut them, these these ones as well, press C or click on this cut tool, and if I pack again, now you can see it's a lot cleaner unwrap, and in my opinion, this is a lot better and something. Well, this is probably inside as well. I might have to clean it up as well, but for now. So by the way, this is behind the camera as well, so I'm not going to worry about this for the time being now. So this in my case is a lot better unwrap. Let me just save it so that uh, geometry can be imported back into Max automatically. Now you can see that this has a modifier as well. If I click on the unwrap UVW modifier and open up the UV editor, you can see that we have proper UVs. Let me just delete the unwrap modifier. This is the way if I open up the document, fixing the modeling problem. So now this is the way we are going to approach the unwrapping. It's not a very hard job, it's just a little bit technical, but once you understand the process, you can quickly and easily do the unwrapping and process. So the next thing would be to understand texel density, and texel density is a little bit hard topic to grasp, but we have to do it. We have to do everything the proper way. Texel density, what it means, if I open up my browser, if you search for texel density, you can see that some images pop up like this. So basically what the texel density is, consistency between your model. Like if the unwrap is looking, the checker pattern is looking even uh, at the bottom of this model, it should look even all over your model. And this is the bad example, like these are smaller here and bigger here, and they've gone blurry, and this one, it's a mess. And possibly in the rendering it don't matter that much, but if we understand texel density, the way we assign our textures, it's going to change our thinking. It's going to change our thinking process. It's not just that we assign a low resolution texture. It's about texel density. Like how much pixels are a texel. A texel is essentially a container which can hold low or high amount of pixels in them, like the JPEG file or some other file. You can Google texel density and you can find a lot of examples uh, regarding the texel density. So understanding texel density, like in this image, you can see that this is consistent. You can see that when the model is unwrapped, everything is everything seems one square. They are all equal in every model, like in the stair, in this road blocker object, and in this cylinder if it's placed over here. This is consistent and this is inconsistent, like the floor textures are medium, this is smaller, and this is way smaller, and this is, I don't know what the hell is this, and this is inconsistent. So if your artwork consists of inconsistent textures, your possibly your end result might not look very good. And this is a very important thing, like to be consistent. Like this has to be same consistent resolution, and like this is, it has to be. You can't just put 4K texture to this model and 4K texture to this and 4K texture to this, and you're saying, yeah, well, I put 4K texture to all of my models, and bam, suddenly this still looks high res, or maybe this will look very high res, and this will not look very high res at all, or this will look medium res, and you are saying, well, I put 4K texture to this and it's not looking good, and I did put 4K texture to this and it's not looking good, and possibly you put a 512 texture and it's looking very great, and you might be wondering what is the problem. The problem lies within the inconsistency, like within the texel density. The way I like to work is I like to work with 200 centimeter per 2K texture. And what do I mean by this? If I, make a plane, and let me just switch back to centimeter, and I put 200, 200. Now, when we are talking about UV, if I put the UV projection modifier, you see that we have to unwrap a 2D texture to a 3D object, and it's going to be done by via what I call a translator, and the translator is the UVW or the UVW unwrap modifier. So these modifiers basically translate the 2D texture space into 3D texture space. This is the proper term, what I call these modifiers. These are translators, and the information contained in these translator is called texel density. This is probably confusing. I can just demonstrate it to you so you can understand. And let me just go into my preferences and turn off this real world texture coordinate system, so that whenever I create another object and apply a UVW map modifier, this will not be assigned to uh, this will not be ticked by default. So the 200 by 200, and I'm going to locate the textures downloads, and this is the checker pattern which I use. You can find it on Polycount. Polycount is a very famous 3D website. It is for game development, game ready models, and you can find a lot of resources on the forums on this website. I might possibly, provide the links. I will upload them to my Google Drive, and so you can download these texts as well. As previously, like I said, I like to work in the 200 centimeter per 2K texture. So I'm going to just assign this texture. Okay, so why? Oh, because we did not assign the UVW map modifier. So once I've assigned the UVW map modifier, 200 centimeter by 200 centimeter, if I go to my US, this is 6 feet 6.74 inches. Let me just switch back the unit system. Now, how can we work like this? If I, click on copy and I remove this modifier and I scale this plane, and let me just press the insert key and move the pivot point to this location and press the insert again, spacebar, lock selected, and just snap it over here. And if I assign the UVW map modifier, it's saying 200 by 200 centimeter. Well, that's wrong because we did not we scaled this object and we did not reset the UV, or should I say the XForm modifier. Now we did not. What we want to be doing is clicking on this reset XForm and click on this reset XForm. Now that the scale of this object has been modified, you can see that now it's 100% again, and now this is 100%. Now if I put the UVW map modifier, you can see now that this is saying now this is 422, and let me just put 200 by 200 as well. Now you can see that if I put 200 by 200, the texel density is now consistent. And if I just possibly turn off this and roughly align my UVW box gizmo to this, now you can see that the texture, the boxes in the UV texture grid, they are consistent. Now you can see that the texel density is now consistent, and now we are working with 200 by 200 centimeter per 2K texture. And this is a very, initially this is a hard concept to grasp, but once you understand this process, like it will get easier. And the next thing I will be doing, like if I copy this, and this was 200 by 200, and I'm going to put this 100 by 100 centimeter and 200 by 200, and I think I'm just going to round this plane to 400 by, not this way. I think I'm going to copy this again. That was the point that I wanted to show you. And let me just put 400 by 400 and click on the UV, and 200 by 200 length width, because this is still a 2K texture and this is still a 2K texture. Now depending upon the resolution, size and scale of your object, you can get away with a lower resolution texture or a higher resolution texture per object. Now how do I know this? Because let me just demonstrate to you by going to, like, send this object to RizomUV, and we have to first convert this to editable poly. In fact, I'm going to convert all of these into editable poly. And you're saying, oh no, I can't now. How can I verify the area of this object? Well, you can do this easily by going to edit and transform, type in transform toolbox, and you can, see this size parameter, and you can, uh, in this bottom area, you can get size of the object. You can click on this, and it will show you the dimension of this, like this is x in 400 and y in 400, and you can get the dimension from any of these objects as well. So that was a quick tip. Now let me just send this to RizomUV. F to focus, and if I unfold this, and you can see that my map res is 2048 by 2048, and the target texel texel density is 10.24. uh, so the number that I am looking for is this. If I click on any polygon, you can see that it is saying that the selected TD, which stands for texel density, is 10.16, which is roughly more or less equal to what we want to be aiming for. This is a very hard concept for you to grasp, but it is very important. Once you understand it, you can, assign your textures very easily. I'm going to click no, and I'm going to send this object, which was, if I get the dimension from this, now this is 100 by 100. Now this still has a 2k texture assigned to this. If I put, you know like 1k texture to this object, and put a UVW map to this object, and you can see that textures are more or less equal, and they haven't lost any resolution. If I click on this plus tab and configure viewport, and go into my performance tab, because I want to be using 4096, not the baked one. This could be, but 4096 by 4096, and this could be 1024, and apply. Now that Max will show the highest resolution texture. I did assign 1k texture to this piece, and press F, and unfold, and press back possibly. And if I click on this, you can see that my selected texel density is 20. And what this means is that the we did assign the texture over there in Max, but in Rhizome it's still showing that this is 2048 by 2048, which means that uh, the 200 centimeter, or the 100 centimeter by 100 centimeter uh, texture is a lot bigger. If we, aim for our selected textile density, which was 10.24, and click on this, now you can see that the actual, size of this tile or the texture, it's here. If I, just, you know expand this and let me just turn off min and max scaling and try to repack. Now you can see that this is the actual size, and we hit our textile density target, which is 100%, and this is all of the UV space which has been wasted. Now this shows us that there is no point for use a 2K texture on this object, which in Max is, if I switch to Max, which is 100 by 100 centimeter. So let me switch back to Rhizom UV, which means my next point, if I divide this by 2, which means that if I put 1K texture to this object, it can easily fit into this UV bounding box. And if I pack again, if I click turn off these scaling, min and max scaling to free, and then pack again, this should fit the UV to this island. And if I click again, you can see that this is more or less roughly 10.16, which is what we want. So my point is that we can get away with a smaller texture if we plan properly, and if we plan what our target texel density is. So the texel density is very important when doing consistent artwork. Now let me just cancel back again, and moving on to this object, which is 400 by 400 centimeter. Now you got the point, and I will probably assign a 4K texture to this object. Now the texel density is inconsistent. You can see that the UVs are not properly laid out. If I click on the UVW map modifier, you can see that if I send this object to Rhizom UV, and this time I will possibly hit save, and if I press F and possibly just pack, just unwrap, pack, optimize. Now if I click on, go to my polygon and click on this, you can see that we have a much lower density. Now what is happening? If I click on this, possibly this texture, you can see that the texture is bigger. And let me just go into my preferences dialog box and click here and possibly navigate to this and possibly pick the 4K texture and click on here. I might have to change these PNGs to JPEG, and now you can see that the texel density is very low. If I click on these polygons and click on this apply texel density, you can see that the polygons have gone a lot bigger, and they can't fit into this UV box anymore, which is a problem. uh, why this is happening is because this object is 400 by 400 centimeter, and we are still applying a 2K texture to this object. And if we go into max, we are saying that we want to be using a 2K texture for 200 by 200 centimeter. So this means if this is 400 by 400 centimeters, we have to use a bigger texture. So this means we have to use a 4K texture on this bigger piece of, or should I say bigger scale of object. Remember, the scale matters. That is why we have to be consistent. We have to model in real world scale so that everything can match up. If we switch to Rhizom UV, you can see that we have a scene unit setup, and it is set to centimeter, and we have a texel density which is set to texel density per centimeter, which is the scale. Now back to the point what I was saying. If I multiply this by 2, and now you can see that this is 4K, and if I unwrap, optimize and pack again, now this object, these polygons they fit into this square. Now, why is this fitting into this square? Because we achieved our texel density target, which was 10.16 or roughly 10.24. So we have to achieve the texel density, either we have to increase the texture resolution. I'm not saying the texel, I'm saying the texture resolution, or decrease the texture resolution depending upon our area, which is 200 by 200 as a general rule of thumb formula. You remember, you have to might have to watch this a couple of times to grasp the concept of texel density and texture resolution. Now I am going to hit save for this object, and now we are back with this object. Now you can see that if I open up the material editor and click on this, now this has a higher resolution texture, which is, you can see, 4096 by 4096, and this object, which is a smaller object, if I pick the material and view the image, it has a lower resolution object, i.e., but one thing is common in all of these objects. You can see that they have consistent texel density, which means if I switch to Google, and you can see that these objects have consistent texel density, and these ones do not have. They have inconsistent texel density. And after watching this video and understanding the concept, now you can understand why your objects in game or Unreal Engine or in possibly in renders, why some objects look high resolution and why some objects look lower resolution, even if you did put a higher resolution textures on them. Because when in comparison, remember, in art rules, a scale is when an object is in placed with some other object, so you can compare it, so then you can understand the scale of the object. So you can see that this road blocker object, it has inconsistent UVs, i.e., this has a higher texel density and this one has a medium texel density, and possibly this has a very higher texel density. And if I put a very high resolution textures or maybe a very low resolution texture, it will not look good at all. If we uh, achieve our target texel density, which you can talk to your project supervisor or your team head or your company's head of department, and you can ask them, what texel density are you going for, what texel density is needed for a game or for a project or for a render, so they can guide you, and possibly you have a standard set in your office. This is a standard what I use, what I probably what over the years what I have set up for my setup, and this works for me. So hopefully you got the point, and this is the understanding the texel density. Now in the next video we will start unwrapping. Now this was the process that you need to understand before unwrapping. Once you understand this process, unwrapping will be a piece of cake for you. It will be just something, a habit. It's not going to look very daunting task. It's not going to look problematic. It's not going to look very tedious task. It's going to be fun. Remember when we were following Arnold Schwarzenegger, and what he said, you have to be relaxed, and you have to understand, the process. Once you are relaxed and chase after your goal, it's going to be fun chasing after your goal. This was roughly some quotes from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this was what I was talking about. You have to have a vision. This is just a healthy reminder. And this was the vision. This was the vision that we intended for, like fixing the geometry edge flow, fixing the modeling. This is the vision. And visualize your goal and chasing after it, makes it fun. And we did visualize our goal, and in the whole video, we did chase after our vision and after our goal. That was the goal. This was our vision, and we write it down and we make it a goal, and we chased it, and we put the points and we understand it. So the next thing, work your ass off, and there is no magic pill. And this was what we exactly did. We did the hard work, and we did a lot of research, and we did put a lot of effort. So you have to be relaxed, and if you did not understand the concept and the videos, you have to go back, uh, watch watch again, and understand these, and you can get it. It took me a while to understand the texel density and all of this process, but once uh, once you understand it, it will be. Now that we have done all of these process, and we have done understand them, uh, now it's time for us to do the actual unwrapping process. I'm going to unfreeze, and I am going to delete all of these objects, and I'm going to just click on the standard, and possibly look at this picture frame. I might uh, remove this and just roughly scale this object up. So if I press Shift F, or I could just use my image comp helper script, just quickly get rid of these. But for now, no, I think I'm not going to look at my image comp helper script, but I am going to look at my reference images. This was the reference concept image that we have done. We could possibly type the composition, but I'm not going to do this. We are going to proceed with the unwrapping process. Back to the perspective view, and go easy. First, I will unwrap this picture frame object by clicking on this RizomUV bridge, and then sending this object to the RizomUV. And the RGB error was because in the preferences we I did set up this texture. I'm going to reset all, and so that RizomUV has been set to its default state, and I'm going to press F. And for this approach, for this route, I think I'm going to click with this sharp edges, some sort of auto seam solution, and click here, and maybe lower this algorithm option, and possibly unwrap and pack. Now you can see that uh, Rhizome UV has given me a very perfect, not perfect, but almost perfect solution. And if I go to my checkerboard pattern, you can see that uh, I don't have any overlapping UVs and nothing else. Now, in the planning phase, what now we are doing the unwrapping in Rhizome UV, uh, I'm going to further categorize this, you know, part to into subcategories, like what is important and what's not. Nice aligned text and nice even textures. And what was the size of this object? Let me quickly get back into Max and go to my tool, not the tools, edit menu, transform toolbox, and get the size of this object. It's 50 by 100, and which means that if we follow our rule for the texture, which was 200 by 200 centimeter per 2K texture, this is, I think this is 100 by 100, so we can, put a 1K texture to this frame. So let me just divide this by 2 and we have a 1K texture. And if we go to the polygon menu, and yeah, this is more or less roughly the, I can, repack and optimize so we can make sure. Yeah, it's now 9.65 texel density. Now the the consistency, what I've said. And uh, remember, in art, we, we say that rules are meant to be broken. Well, this is the perfect case. uh, yes, we want to be consistent in texel density, but this face, uh, this is the back of the picture frame, and this face we will probably be never going to see this. And not even in the game, not even in the render. So it's no point to give this much texel resolution to this face, which is not seen by anything, neither in the camera nor never. So I'm going to scale this thing down, by clicking on these handles, and possibly, for the sake of it, just this. And I'm going to expand my packing properties, and min scaling and max scaling. I'm going to lock this. So whenever I, pack this, it will not, try to pack this. If I, try to pack this, and I have no idea why this is not. Uh, these should be free, and this one should be 100% min and max. Now it worked, and I don't know why it did not work previously. But the thing is that if we if I want to say, rules are meant to be broken, I know that this is the picture frame, and within this frame there's going to be a picture, and I want this to be, like very very clear. So I'm going to just, give this a much higher texel density. And I think I'm going to just press pack again. And see, here's the thing. The next would be to, this is done, and nice aligned texture. And what uh, I mean by that is, if I go to this, texture mode, you can see that some of these faces the text are upside down, and here it's okay. So this means that I need to pack these islands in the direction of, like, rotate them manually, but Rhizom UV has an option which is the initial orientation. If I set this, in Rhizom, the up axis, the upward axis is Y. So if I click on Y, initial orientation to Y, and you know, I think I have to, repack this again and apply the texel density once again, and possibly I have to, scale it down once again and then try to pack again. Now you can see that uh, the text have been oriented correctly. Well, still not this one. Well, we could just manually, rotate it. It's not that hard. uh, and we can, scale it up again and then try to pack again. Now this is what uh, I was looking for, and this is great. And we have a 1K texture with the texel density that we want to be, aiming for. And apart from this rule that we've broken, we break this rule. And I told you why we break this rule, because I want this is the main part of the image, and we want to, be putting a pencil drawing in this image. And we could, you know give this polygon, give this UV island, should I say, a bigger texture resolution, or a bigger texture space. So I'm going to hit save. So okay, somehow this can happen as well. The connection has been broken. No problem, we can save this. So we can do save as, and navigate to my project directory and click on import export, and I am going to say picture frame fbx and save. This can happen, don't worry, relax. Just, nothing's going to end, nothing's going to happen. Just delete this object and click on import, and then import the picture frame and click on import. And now this object has been imported. We could, if this gets imported the wrong way, I can, press undo and click on this object and possibly align it, or use, in this case I'm just going to use the tag tool and just uh, put it over here like this, and just click on the move tool and just, roughly place it over here, and hide selection and delete this object and unhide. And I think this has the proper UV. We can check this by going to the unwrap UVW modifier, and you can see that this has proper UVs. So this is done, and the next thing would be, if I hide this, the one thing that I should have done is, override uh, this with shaded without maps. Not this one. Where is the fast shade? This That's it. or I could, override with the, UV textures as well. But because the process I think that we are doing, we should override with the UV. So the next easier task would be to unwrap uh, this bottle, because the frame, the windows, the window frame and the walls, they require much work. So we will be uh, doing this, I think, later, or I think in the end. So Rhizome UV is perfectly capable of, uh, handling up high resolution geometry. And by the way, Rhizome UV is perfectly capable of doing the symmetry as well. We will be doing that as well. I'm going to convert this to editable poly, and I am going to send it to Rhizome, and I'm going to hit F. By the way, symmetry will not work on this object because we did not, model this uh, the symmetrical way. If I click the top view and I put this, to remove the perspective, you can see that it is going to, this seam line. But I did tried it, I think, because of somehow the we have some sort of polygon count or mismatch. This symmetry is not working for uh, this object, because if I show the setting, and if I even if oh, it worked. Mesh bounding box, wow. Now previously it wasn't working, but it worked. And I think it's a great opportunity to show that this model can be, easily unwrapped via the symmetrical line. So I'm going to possibly click on, go to my top view, and this edge, yeah, this will work. And I'm going to click on cut to mark a seam. And I think that we put the turbo mode, that's why we have some problems over here. And I'm going to select this loop and this loop. By the way, you can select the loop by clicking on this edge, and I'm going to press the cut button or the C key. Yeah, that's it. And I think I'm going to press the unwrap and optimize and pack. Now I think I'm going to, turn off the symmetry. In this case, the symmetry did not matter that much. Uh, but I'm going to set the initial orientation to possibly to Y, and then click on pack. You can see that everything has been oriented to world up axis. And let me see the checkers. Okay, the checkers are not showing. And first of all, I think, let me just verify what the size of this object is, get. And it's more or less 150 centimeter, which uh, could, possibly be go up to 2K. Remember, we said we will be, working with 200 by 200 per 2K texture. So if I oh, we have a higher texel density. If I, click on the UV shells and apply the texel density, I think we can go with the lower texel resolution divided by 2, and hit the repack again. Yeah, more or less it's okay. So that means we can, put a 1K texture on this object if we, uh, have a look at our target texel density. And one thing I like to do is, keep them these, meshes together. Let me just move this to these ones possibly over here by just, and I think Rhizom did a better job at packing. But still I'm going to do this manually because these are the interior parts, and I think possibly these UVs are flipped or not. Let me quickly uh, yeah, I think these are flipped. So I can, go to align and flip them like this. Now the checkers are showing, and now we have some severe stretching. I still do not know why the checkers are not showing on these. Oh, they are. I think there's a problem with this. I think those ones were flipped, but these ones are not. I think because uh, I did assign a symmetry modifier onto this object, possibly uh, when I was testing, possibly because I did not optimize it enough. Yes, this is probably the case. And if the object is not being optimized properly, you can just press and hold the O key, and you can see that it's working. And you can see that here it's showing the optimized progress. Now it has been done, and I'm going to click on pack, and yeah, it's okay. The Now these are flipped. I'm going to, yes, now they have been, all of them have been corrected. And I just want these pieces, and we could just straighten these up by clicking, or we can just manually just little bit by clicking on this circle. There you go. And we did put some visible seams like over here and here. uh, in these modern days, I think that the seams are not that of a problem because we have Substance Painter and all of these softwares. And I think I'm going to straighten these, and press the O key to optimize. Just scale them up. These ones have a lot less texel density. Now they have enough. And click on this UV island and try to, first let me just try to optimize it. Yeah, well, it can be optimized. I have to just press the O key to a lot longer, or I can just help it and then press the O key. try to optimize it. It's not working. I'll just manually, I just, you know, not that long, just put it over here. So we could, do a better job by, putting up some seams over here or to this part. So this can be done. But since this is a glass vase, and I might not put up any texture in this, so it will be a waste of time for me to spend, uh, or rather, some, huge amount of time in this. So I'm just going to click on save, and it's going to bring it back into Max. So now this has been done, and this is going to be a fun part. So we want to be planning this, like we could, divide this in symmetry. So first, just let me get the size of this object. So I think this is bigger than what we planned for, like 200 by 200 per 2K texture. It might just fit into 2K resolution. We will see. First, let me just going to convert this to editable poly. We can, put up a symmetry modifier and do the unwrapping as well. We could try this, but it's not that much of a, bigger object. Yeah, what the heck? Just do it. Put up a symmetry modifier and convert this to editable poly, and let me just save Max file and then send this to RizomUV and hit F. First of all, I'm going to enable symmetry and show the symmetry modifier, and click on this mesh bounding box to center, and it found the symmetry, and I'm going to close it, and we can work in the symmetry. Now I'm not going to use the auto seams feature because I know that it will be a bit easier if I, do it uh, manually. I'm going to hit I for isolate. This is the isolate tool. I just isolated this top part, and in the edge selection mode, I'm just going to select this edge loop, and I might possibly click on this geometric button. If I, click this, it can find the alternate path. In this case, the selection would be a lot easier, so I won't have to, hunt down and find and select all of these edges. So that's it. Couple of clicks, and then I'm going to press a C to cut, which is this tool, and I'm going to press unfold, and yeah, I think it's okay. It's very nice unfold. So I'm going to click on show, or I am going to press I again, in this case show, and now I think I'm going to turn off the symmetry, and I'm going to hit I to isolate this part of the table leg. And remember, I have this geometric button turned on. Double click these edges, these are done, and possibly the bottom ones as well. Now I'm going to press the Y key to show all, and I'm going to press the C key to cut, and I think I'm going to go into island mode and double click to select these, and I'm going to press the U key, which is the hotkey for unfold. U, and this has been unfold, and I'm going to press the O key to optimize this, and possibly press the P key, which is the shortcut for this pack, P. And something has been done. I should have done, by press the P key for this, like this way. Now I'm going to double click my middle mouse button to select this whole island, for this whole geometry piece in the island selection mode, and I'm going to try this topocopy, and possibly click on this update similar button, and let's see what happens. And if I am right, it's going to, yeah, well, I think it did found all of these objects symmetrical. And if I press pack, voila, you can see that it has been done. Now everything has been unwrapped, and this was not very time consuming, and this was not hard at all, because we did follow the process and we did understand what we want to do. Remember the rule: you have to have a vision, and you have to realize what you are going for. So we did understand the process, and that's why we did pack this, and we almost have our texel density achieved. uh, I'd say that we could, the next thing would be to align these to the right direction. In this case, this is okay, and this one is not, this one is not. So we could, like I said, do it manually, or we could try to set up the initial orientation to the up y world axis to y, and try to pack it again. And uh, in many instances it can do a good job, and it you know we could try to packing accuracy, and we can up this to here and here, let it uh, give Rhizom UV some more iterations. So let's see, let's try it, and you can see that uh, it is doing. And yes, well, it's the same. So the optimization part, now this part of the table we are not going to see this, so I'm just going to do this, scale it down, way down, and I am going to set the min and max scaling to 100%, and click on this pack translate, which is not going to move, rotate, or scale these islands, which we have locked. And for some reason it did not work previously, but it did work now. You can see that everything is now perfectly aligned to world up axis, and we don't have to manually put them like this way. So one thing I did not like about what it has done to these things, and I'm just going to put them over here, and I'm just going to select them and just put them over here, just for consistency sake. and I could, click the straighten these, and put them over to here. And this one I could try this as well. Remember this, and we could, align them like this, and like on top of this, and we can, give them spacing. uh, we could try this. In this case it kind of work. I think I'm going to set the pixel. Yeah, this is great. What I did was distribute space, and we set them, give them 4 pixel margin. In this case I think I'm going to give this 8 pixel, because our margin is set to 8 pixel. So I'm going to hit the, what's this thing called, spacing, I think so, yeah. It's distributed spacing. So I'm going to place it here, and I'm just going to place this here. So I think, just click on straighten here. For some reason it was not. So yeah, it's okay. By the way, we did reached our target max texel density. And I'm not going for, I think for now, I'm not going to be, sending this asset to Unreal, but I am still, targeting my texel density, and I'm going to hit save to send this object back to Max. And congratulations, it has been done. So I'm going to hit save, and these objects are done. And the next would be the possibly the tough part, like doing this window and these walls. So the next thing would be to unwrap this window frame and this glass. Glass is a simple object, but this window frame is a bit technical. uh, Let me just, send it to the RizomUV so you can better understand what is happening. Remember that this was the text and the plan that we wrote down. If I press F, you can see that we have some all sort of weird geometrical issues. And let me just close up RizomUV. Because this geometry came from Revit, Max can understand it, but the other 3D applications cannot understand it. And we have to fix the geometry edge flow and fix the modeling problems as well. First of all, just let me turn off these selection brackets and save Max file. Now I'm going to use the symmetry modifier, in this case Y, and we have some slight shift. No, No, it was probably because of the texture grid. And we have to fix this, and we have to fix some of uh, this geometrical problem as well. And I'm going to show the ribbon and do the paint connect, and by pressing the control key we can easily just connect these edges. You can use the traditional cut tool as well. And this is a weird edge as well. If I show on end selection and flip my symmetry modifier, remember we are doing this side, so going back to here and then click on the paint connect, and I'm holding down control while dragging from this vertex position to this vertex position. And this is not connecting. It could mean two possible things. Let me just try the traditional cut tool, and this is not working as well. I could possibly change the angle of this face, because this is not why this is not working, because we can see that the face is is being, I think it's going into this geometrical border. That's why it wasn't connecting as well. So to me this seems a very technical problem, because this window frame, it came from Revit, and I there is two option. I could try to manually find and connect and fix these, or uh, I might just use some of the installer functionality to rebuild this geometrical. But I tend not to use this software and try to manually fix it. Let's see how far can we go if we you know try to do this. Mm, if we can delete this face and delete this and possibly delete this as well, and delete this face, and let's see if we can go into edge mode and bridge these now. Not extrude, the bridge, by click dragging. Let me just click the override to off and inspect the geometry. There is the problem as well. Delete this, delete, not possibly this. Now I think we should be able to bridge these now. Yes. And if we, now this has been done, and turn on the symmetry. Yes, that's it's looking now okay. And if we move to the other side, I think we possibly have some errors over here as well. They can be welded. Yes, they can be welded. So bottom backside, and Let me just go to Paint Connect once again, and I think we should delete this face as well and try to do a bridge connection as well. Good job. There you go. Now Paint Connect by holding down the Control key, and not the Swift loop, the Paint Connect once again. Switch to my symmetry mode and undo. Apply the edit poly modifier on top and go to vertex mode. Press Ctrl A to select all of the vertices and hit weld, and I think they've been welded, and we have a problem over here. Let's try to inspect this. Yep, we have overlapping faces. I think this one is overlapping, or the other one was overlapping. I think I'm just going to delete this and try to, really bad geometry. Really bad geometry over here. This is what happens when we, import objects from other softwares. In this case, we imported this window frame from Revit. And just try to bridge this again, and this is okay, but we still have bad geometry, and it's personal preference that you want to use the Revit model, or build up your model in 3ds Max. I think the better way to approach would be to find some sort of cyanide tools, or some sort of like InstaLUD. They can help a lot with the rebuilding of the meshes, so you don't have to do the manual processing. So this is, I think, fairly simple as well. Are these 6 sides? 6, yes. I was just making sure that these were not overlapping double faces. So I'm just going to hit the isolate button, hit the Control S, and I think I have to put the symmetry modifier once again and flip it so that this will be correct. I think we should try to fix this edge as well. Let me just do the Control and backspace to remove this and show end result. And now the symmetry have fixed this problem as well. And remember, we still have some inner polygons which we did not address properly, which we have to deal when we are going to UV this window frame. So just test it, send it to RizomUV, and hopefully uh, it will work properly. Hit the F key and voila, Now it's somewhat working properly and somewhat not, because you see this green line, it's showing that it has some overlapping polygons or some underneath polygons as well. If I go to wireframe, you can see now that it's very clear that these are you know underlying or overlapping polygons, which we could try to fix. I think it's going to be a problem when we are going to unwrap this object. And let's see, we could try it. I can just pick up the polygon. If I could just try, I could just try to auto seam this with the hard edge and lowering the algorithm. Select and press C to cut, unwrap and pack. And this is possibly a very decent solution, and I think I'm going to just go with that. uh, I'm going to just cut these because these are just way too difficult edges. Cut, select these edges and press cut, and so as this. And just select this, cut, and also these rectangular type of objects, they will not be good when doing unwraps. The shapes of these, what I personally like is I want these to be straight, nice and flat. So I'm going to press unwrap, pack, possibly optimize, and I have to press the O key held down, so you can see that they are being straightened as much as they can. And if we look at our checkerboard, this is problematic a bit, but no, it's not. So let me just quickly verify the size of our object, and it's possibly, yeah, it's possibly in between 200 by 200 UV space, so we can, I think, get away with a 2K texture. And yeah, we almost got the texel density to 9.45. Remember, I'm not doing this 100% precise because I'm still not planning to put these objects into Unreal or any other gaming engine. If you want to be going for some sort of gaming engine work, you want to be hitting your target density, which is this. But I'm going to keep it loose and fairly easy. And this is, I think, internal edge, and click on the polygon. Where is this? Press the F key in the 3D view. I think, yep, this is the internal geometrical edge as well. So I'm not going to bother with this, but I am going to look out for these. And I think the checkers are even, and we have to move to the next part, which is the text, which is absolutely wrong. The sevens are going flipped. Some of them are, and some of them are not. We have to, we have to set our initial orientation to Y, which is this, up axis to Y, and press the optimize this pack, and just, I think I'm going to press the O key, hold it down like a lot of time, and you can see that Rhizom UV is doing some optimization in the background. And if I look here, look at my object now, I think the text is properly oriented and everything else has been unwrapped. And for me, it's looking a lot well. And I'm going to just hit on save and bring this uh, piece back into 3ds Max. And it has been done. And for the glass part, I'm not, I could just, send it to Rhizom, but I'm just going to put up a simple unwrap modifier in Max and just quickly press the Control E to open up the mapping UV editor, and just click on the pattern mapping and just click on here. That's it. And unhide all, hide selection, and the now comes the bigger part. How we want to, if I just isolate this, how we want to unwrap these walls. So remember that this came from Revit as well, so it has potential problems as well. If I open up the cyanide tools and identify the double vertices, uh, I think that when we were tweaking and fixing, I think that we did fix the geometry. And first things first, now this is a huge object. If I get the dimensions for this, you can see that in the Y this is 640 centimeter, and in the X this is 587. uh, so we have to be smart, we have to, plan this. If this was a bigger project, if I want to, in my case, uh, only this wall is visible, and we don't have to, do the unwrapping process for the whole object. But since I am showing you the techniques and the process, like how we want to be, approaching this, I think I'm going to go with the max texture of 4K, and possibly divide these walls into UDIM tiles, and we can get these tiles back. We can get these tiles back into Max, and we can render them via like the UDIM tiles with the separate textures. So let's see. Let's try it and possibly hit our texel density target as well. So I just hit F to focus, and this is the wall that we want to be, putting our textures on. And I think I'm going to use the auto seam function with the hard edges as well, and possibly lower the algorithm option. Select this and hit the C key to unwrap and pack, and possibly hit the optimize. Now this is a pretty decent unwrap in my opinion. Now the thing is that we want this wall to, be the maximum texel density. And if I click on this, this is the wall, and right now it has it only has a 1.28 uh, uh, texel density, and if we multiply this by 2, this is 4K texture, and if we pick this, it still only has a 2.55 texel density, which means we have to be smart and put these walls in UDIMs. I do not want to be going, I do not want to be putting an 8K or a 12K or a 16K texture to be consistent with the texture. Let's see if we, uh, pick this over here and apply our texel density. So it it is, I think it's a bit big, but we can compensate a little bit. Uh, but first of all, let me just cut all of these by going into edge mode, and let me just maximize this UV view, clicking on the select tool, and I'm just selecting these edges and pressing the cut tool and pack. This is done. This is great. So how many, the question really depends how many UDIM tiles we need. Right now I am going to look through my render view, and I know my camera is placed over here, and possibly I want these, if I switch to the island mode, this and this, these are probably four walls that we want the resolutions to be high, and these are going to be covered inside the window frame as well. So let me just quickly make sure and turn off the, yeah, it's going to be covered. So I'm just going to move these and apply my texel density over here and put these over here for the time being. And these are four faces. One, okay, one, two, just select them and move them, select them and move them, select them. And this is the very important piece. And I'm just going to click on this UDIM tile and possibly increase it to, we could just use one UDIM tile, but I'm just going to just for the sake of it, I'm just going to uh, get this here and get all of these, click on this and press pack so that they can be packed to this, and press this and click on this UDIM tile and press pack so that it can, it just scale it down a little bit, but for our opinion this is fine, this is really good. And everything else I'm going to click this and this tile and hit pack. So now all of these we can pretty much ignore, but it is still unwrapped, and all of this, uh, these and these ones, we can be, put some, at least put some texture. They might not be very high resolution like we have, the texel density is very low, uh, but for our purpose, but for our purpose, this is going to be working fine, since this is our main wall. And if we look at our concept, we are not going to see any of the wall in the camera as well. So I think I'm just going to hit save and bring this back into Max. So hide this and possibly put an unwrap UVW modifier and open the UV editor, and now you can see that we have our unwrap. And if we want to show the UDIMs, we can just click on this button so Max can show the multiple UDIM tiles. And this is fairly very easy, and we can assign multiple textures, since we are not going for the gaming engine right now, Unreal or anything else. We can just assign a multi sub object material to these components, to these parts, and they will pick up the texture from these UDIM tiles. We don't have to be we could if we go to material editor, we can we can use this simple maps and general and click on this multi-tile, and we can use this UDIM workflow with this loading the texture, and it will automatically load all of the textures. If we are going to be in the substance painter, and we painted the maps from substance painter, so this will be the workflow. But for now, we are going with the simple VRay workflow. So this is fine, and this is good. And I think that this is very simple as well. And possibly, what is the size? Get, yeah, I think 4K textures, 4K for this and 4K for the upper ceiling would be necessary for these objects, but we can tile them as well. Remember, these are very simple objects. We can put a 2K texture and just repeat these as well. But I'm just going to you know probably just unwrap, and in Max I'm just going to hit the flatten mapping and hit on OK and click this face. And yeah, I could just scale it, but I'm just going to, or I should probably do it the right way, just you know send it to Rizom and try not to be sloppy as well. Hit the F key to frame and simply just cut it, unwrap it, pack it, and this is the object. And I am going to you know maximize it, and if I hit multiply by 2, check it, apply the texel density. That this floor texture, it needs more than 4K, but I'm not going to do this for now. I'm just going to click on this UV island, and I am just going to scale this down and possibly try to pack it and just put this thing, just scale it over here, because we are not going to see this anyway. So just put it over here and click on save. And now this has been done, and the same process can be done for the ceiling as well. And I think this is just one simple plane, and I'm just going to put up the UV unwrap, open up the editor, and just click on mapping, flatten mapping, and click on OK. So this has been unwrapped as well. So if we look at our objects now, our objects have been unwrapped and UV properly, and you can see that if we plan our unwraps and did the unwraps, it is not a very hard task to do. It is very simple and straightforward process. And by the way, if you liked all of my worked on videos, you like, share these videos, and you subscribe to my channel, and possibly, I'm going to make a Patreon account, possibly support me on the Patreon uh, web page as well. So thanks again for watching. So happy unwrapping. See you and bye.